A billionaire CEO's son vanished in downtown Chicago, and the stranger who found him changed everything. What happened next shattered every wall Victoria Hale had built around her heart. This is a story about a single moment in a forgotten alley that would rewrite two broken lives forever. A story about what happens when desperation meets kindness, when wealth collides with humility, and when two people who had given up on love found something neither expected. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The conference room on the 42nd floor smelled like expensive cologne and desperation. Victoria Hale sat at the head of the table, her fingers drumming against the polished mahogany surface, while three attorneys argued about merger terms she'd stopped caring about 20 minutes ago. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Chicago sprawled beneath a February sky the color of dirty concrete. "Mrs. Hale, if we could just get your signature on—" "It's Ms. Hale," Victoria interrupted, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "And I need 5 minutes." She stood before anyone could protest, her Louboutin heels clicking against marble as she walked out. The hallway was quieter, but the pressure in her chest didn't ease. 30 years old, running a billion-dollar logistics empire. And she couldn't remember the last time she'd taken a full breath. Her phone buzzed. The nanny. Again. "What is it, Margaret?" "Liam's asking for you. He wants to know if you're coming to his presentation tomorrow." Victoria pinched the bridge of her nose. "Tell him I'll try." "Ms. Hale, he's asked 4 times today. I said I'll try." She hung up, immediately hating herself for it. 2 years since Michael's accident. 2 years of raising Liam alone while keeping her late husband's company from falling apart. 2 years of everyone telling her she was so strong, so capable, so inspiring. Nobody asked if she was drowning. The elevator doors opened. Her assistant stood there, looking apologetic. "They're waiting for you." "I know." Victoria stepped inside, catching her reflection in the polished steel doors. Perfect makeup hiding the exhaustion. Perfect suit hiding the weight she'd lost. Perfect smile that didn't reach her eyes anymore. When had she become this person? The meeting dragged on another hour. By the time Victoria made it back to her Lake Forest estate, the February sun was already setting. The house looked like something from a magazine spread, all glass and stone and carefully maintained gardens. It had cost Michael everything to build this place. Now it felt like a museum dedicated to a life she barely remembered living. "Mommy!" Liam crashed into her legs the moment she walked through the door, his small arms wrapped around her knees. 6 years old, with Michael's dark eyes and her stubborn chin. "Hey, baby." She knelt down, ignoring how her skirt wrinkled. "How was school?" "We learned about penguins. Did you know they can't fly, but they can swim really fast?" His words tumbled out in a rush. "And Mrs. Peterson said I did really good on my math test, and there's a field trip next week to the aquarium, and—" "That's wonderful, sweetheart." Victoria smoothed his hair, trying to focus past the exhaustion. "Why don't you go wash up for dinner? Can we watch a movie after?" "I have some work to finish, but—" "You always have work." The disappointment in his voice gutted her. "I know, I'm sorry. Maybe this weekend." Liam's shoulders dropped. "You said that last weekend." He was right. She had. Victoria watched him trudge toward the stairs, his dinosaur backpack dragging behind him, and felt the familiar weight of failure settling over her shoulders. Margaret appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. "Dinner's ready. Just the salmon and vegetables you requested." "Thank you. You can head home." "Are you sure? I can stay if—" "I'm fine." The lie came easily now. "Really." After Margaret left, Victoria stood in her enormous kitchen, surrounded by granite countertops and appliances she never used, and realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd cooked a meal, or laughed, or felt anything except this constant, gnawing emptiness. Her phone rang. Work. Always work. "Victoria, we have a problem with the Singapore contract." She closed her eyes. "What kind of problem?" The conversation ate up another hour. By the time she made it upstairs, Liam was already asleep, still wearing his school clothes because she'd forgotten to remind him to change. Victoria pulled a blanket over him, pressed a kiss to his forehead, and hated herself a little more. The next 3 days blurred together. Meetings, conference calls, a brief disastrous dinner where Liam spilled his milk and she snapped at him, then spent the rest of the night apologizing while he pretended everything was fine. That was the worst part, how good he was getting at pretending. On Friday afternoon, Victoria's mother called. "You sound terrible." "Hello to you too, Mom." "When's the last time you slept? Really slept?" Victoria stared at the spreadsheet on her screen, numbers swimming together. "I sleep. Liam told me you fell asleep at breakfast yesterday." "I was resting my eyes." "Victoria." Her mother's voice gentled. "You can't keep doing this. Michael wouldn't have wanted—" "Don't." Victoria's throat tightened. "Please don't tell me what Michael would have wanted. He's not here." The silence stretched between them, full of all the things they couldn't say. "Take Liam somewhere this weekend," her mother finally said. "Anywhere, just spend time with him. The company won't fall apart if you take a Saturday off." After they hung up, Victoria sat in her office, surrounded by leather-bound books and framed awards, and admitted her mother was right. She was drowning. And worse, she was taking Liam down with her. Saturday morning dawned cold and clear. Victoria woke up with something resembling a plan. Take Liam downtown, let him pick out something at the toy store, grab lunch somewhere he'd like. Normal things. Mother and son things. "Really?" Liam's face lit up when she told him. "We're really going?" "Really, really. Get dressed." They took the train into the city because Liam loved trains, pressing his nose against the window and narrating everything they passed. Victoria watched him, this small person who looked so much like his father, and felt something crack in her chest. "I'm sorry I've been working so much," she said quietly. Liam looked up at her, so serious for a 6-year-old. "It's okay. Grandma says you're very important." "You're more important." He smiled, leaning against her shoulder. "I know." The simplicity of it made her laugh. The first real laugh in weeks. Downtown Chicago on a Saturday afternoon was chaos. The shopping district near State Street teemed with people. Tourists snapping photos, street performers drawing crowds, vendors hawking everything from hot dogs to knockoff handbags. Victoria held Liam's hand tight as they navigated the sidewalks. "Can we go in there?" Liam pointed at a toy store with a window display full of action figures. "Sure, baby. Let's—" A pigeon landed right in front of them, iridescent feathers catching the weak February sunlight. Liam gasped in delight. "Look, Mommy, it's so pretty." The bird took off, and before Victoria could react, Liam jerked his hand free and chased after it. "Liam, wait!" But he was already running, small legs pumping, following the pigeon as it swooped around the corner into an alley. Victoria's heart lurched. She pushed through the crowd, her heel catching on uneven pavement, nearly twisting her ankle. "Liam!" She reached the alley entrance, a narrow gap between a restaurant and an office building, the kind of forgotten Chicago space filled with dumpsters and fire escapes. Her breath came in sharp gasps. Empty. "Liam!" Her voice cracked. "Liam, this isn't funny." Nothing. Just the distant sound of traffic and her own thundering heartbeat. Victoria ran deeper into the alley, her expensive coat catching on a chain-link fence. The alley branched, one path leading behind the buildings, another toward a loading dock. Which way had he gone? "Liam!" A woman smoking outside the restaurant's back door looked over. "You okay?" "My son. He's 6, dark hair, blue jacket. Did you see him?" The woman shook her head. "Sorry, honey. Haven't seen any kids." Panic. Real ice water in her veins panic. Victoria fumbled for her phone, fingers shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. Who did she call? The police? How long had he been gone? 30 seconds? A minute? It felt like hours. She ran back to State Street, searching the crowd with wild eyes. Every dark-haired child made her heart stop, but none of them were Liam. How had she lost him? How had she let go of his hand? "Excuse me." Victoria grabbed a security guard's arm. "My son is missing. He's 6 years old. He was just here." The guard's expression shifted to professional concern. "How long ago?" "I don't know, 2 minutes? Maybe 3? He ran into that alley." Her voice was rising, hysteria creeping in. "He was chasing a bird, and I lost sight of him." "Okay, ma'am, stay calm. Let me call this in." But Victoria couldn't stay calm. She couldn't breathe. This was her fault. She'd been distracted, thinking about work, not paying attention. What kind of mother loses her child in downtown Chicago? The kind who's too exhausted to think straight. The kind who's been running on empty for 2 years. The kind who might lose everything that matters while chasing things that don't. And she, 15 minutes earlier, in the alley behind Giuseppe's Italian restaurant, Daniel Brooks had been staring at a half-eaten sandwich and wondering how his life had become this small. 32 years old, 3 part-time jobs that barely added up to 1 living wage, a daughter who deserved so much better than the cramped studio apartment they shared in Pilsen, and a bone-deep exhaustion that no amount of sleep could fix. He sat on an overturned milk crate, taking his lunch break in an alley because the restaurant was slammed and there was nowhere else to sit. The sandwich was turkey and cheese, day-old bread from the discount bakery. It tasted like cardboard, but it was food. Daniel took another bite, trying not to think about the electric bill that was overdue, or the fact that his daughter Emma's school shoes had holes in them, or how his ex-wife had disappeared 3 years ago, leaving him with a 2-year-old and no forwarding address. Some days, surviving felt like an accomplishment. Today wasn't one of those days. Movement caught his eye. A small boy, maybe 6 or 7, came running around the corner, his face flushed with excitement. He skidded to a stop when he saw the alley was a dead end, his head swiveling back and forth. "Hey there," Daniel said gently. "You okay, buddy?" The boy spun around, eyes wide. For a second, Daniel thought he might bolt. Then the kid's lower lip started trembling. "I can't find my mommy." Daniel set down his sandwich, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. Kids scared easy, especially lost kids. "That's all right. We'll find her. What's your name?" "Liam." The boy's voice was small. "I was chasing a pigeon and then I couldn't see her anymore." "I'm Daniel. Nice to meet you, Liam." He glanced toward the alley entrance, but no frantic parent appeared. "Where did you last see your mom?" Liam's face scrunched up in concentration. "On the big street? With all the stores." State Street. Had to be. Daniel pulled out his phone, ancient, cracked screen, but it worked, and was about to dial 911 when Liam's stomach growled. Loud. The kid looked embarrassed. "Sorry. When's the last time you ate?" "Breakfast. We were going to get lunch after the toy store." Daniel looked at his sandwich, his only meal until dinner, which would probably be ramen if he was lucky. Then he looked at Liam's face, still fighting tears, trying so hard to be brave. Wasn't even a choice. "Here." He broke the sandwich in half, offering the bigger piece. "You like turkey?" Liam hesitated. "My mom says I shouldn't take food from strangers." "Your mom's smart, but I think right now she'd want you to eat something, and we're not exactly strangers anymore. We know each other's names." The kid's logic worked. Liam took the sandwich half with both hands, biting into it like he was starving. Daniel watched him eat, remembering countless times he'd done the same thing with Emma, giving her the bigger portion, pretending he wasn't hungry. "Is your mommy nice?" Liam asked through a mouthful of bread. "I bet she is. I bet she's looking for you right now." "She works a lot." Liam swallowed. "Important work. Grandma says she's very busy." Something in the kid's voice, trying to sound grown-up, trying not to sound hurt, hit Daniel right in the chest. He knew that tone. Emma used it sometimes when she said it was okay that they couldn't afford dance classes. Okay that her birthday party was just the 2 of them and a grocery store cake. "I'm sure she misses you," Daniel said. "Come on, let's sit over here where we can see if anyone comes looking." He guided Liam to the milk crate, positioning himself so he could watch both ends of the alley. The February cold was seeping through his thin jacket, but Liam was shivering worse in his fancy designer coat that probably cost more than Daniel made in a month. "You cold, buddy?" Liam nodded. Daniel shrugged off his jacket without thinking, draping it over the boy's shoulders. Now he was freezing, but the kid had stopped shaking. "Thank you," Liam said quietly. "You're nice." Just doing what anyone would do. But that wasn't true, and Daniel knew it. He'd lived in Chicago long enough to know that plenty of people would have walked right past a lost kid, would have called the cops and kept moving, would have decided it wasn't their problem. Maybe he was a sucker. Maybe that's why he was 32 and broke and eating day-old sandwiches in an alley. But he'd rather be a sucker than the kind of person who could walk away from a scared kid. "Do you have any kids?" Liam asked. "A daughter, Emma. She's 5. Does she like pigeons?" Daniel smiled. "She likes anything with feathers, birds, chickens, even saw her trying to pet a seagull once." Liam giggled, a sound like bells. "That's silly. Seagulls are mean." She learned that the hard way. They sat there together, sharing the sandwich, while Daniel kept his phone ready and his eyes on the alley entrances. 10 minutes passed, then 15. The cold was really biting now, but Liam had stopped crying, distracted by Daniel's stories about Emma's adventures. One time, Daniel said, she decided she wanted to be a superhero, put on her raincoat as a cape, got a wooden spoon as a weapon, and marched right up to our landlord to demand he fix the heater. Did he fix it? Eventually, think he was scared of a 3-year-old with a spoon. Liam laughed again, and Daniel felt something ease in his chest. The kid was okay. Scared, but okay. They'd find his mom. Everything would be fine, he hoped.
Daniel? Liam's voice got quiet again. What if my mommy can't find me? She will, and if she doesn't come soon, we'll go find her together. I promise you're not going to be lost forever. You promise? I promise. The words hung in the cold air, a vow from a stranger who had nothing to offer but his word and half a sandwich. But sometimes, Daniel had learned, that was enough. Sometimes, that was everything.
Dick. Victoria had been searching for 45 minutes when the security guard's radio crackled. We've got a report of a child matching that description, behind Giuseppe's, the Italian place on Randolph. She was running before he finished the sentence, pushing through crowds, not caring who she knocked into. The restaurant was 3 blocks away, 3 blocks that felt like 3 miles. Her lungs burned, her vision tunneled. Please let him be okay. The alley entrance came into view. Victoria stumbled into it, her heel finally breaking, nearly sending her sprawling. And there, Liam, sitting on a crate, wrapped in a jacket too big for him, talking to a man who looked exhausted and underfed and was currently pointing at something in the sky. Liam! Her son's head whipped around. Mommy! He launched himself at her, and Victoria caught him, sinking to her knees on the dirty pavement. She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, just held him, feeling his solid warmth, his heartbeat against her chest. I'm sorry, Liam said into her shoulder. I'm sorry. I just wanted to see the pigeon. It's okay. It's okay, baby. You're safe. Tears were streaming down her face, and she didn't care. I was so scared. I thought, She couldn't finish. Couldn't voice all the terrible possibilities that had crashed through her mind for the last 45 minutes. Daniel took care of me, Liam said, pulling back to look at her. He gave me a sandwich and his jacket and told me stories about his daughter. Victoria finally looked up at the man, Daniel, who had stood up from the crate but was keeping his distance, giving them space. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, with the kind of lean build that came from missing too many meals. His hair needed cutting, his jeans were worn through at the knees, and his eyes, dark brown, kind, held none of the judgment she would have expected. Thank you. The words came out broken. Thank you for... I don't know what would have happened if... He's a good kid, Daniel said simply. Brave. Just got a little turned around. Victoria stood on shaky legs, still holding Liam's hand like a lifeline. She reached for her purse with her free hand, fingers fumbling with the clasp. Please, I need to give you something, a reward. Whatever you want. No. Daniel's voice was firm, but not unkind. I don't want money. But you... She looked at his thin jacket, his worn shoes. You gave him your lunch, your coat. Let me at least... He was hungry. He was cold. I helped. That's not something you pay for. The simple dignity in his words stopped her. Victoria had spent 2 years surrounded by people who wanted things from her. Board members angling for power, investors looking for returns, social climbers trying to use her grief as a networking opportunity. And here was this stranger, who clearly needed money, refusing it because he'd helped a lost child. When was the last time someone had surprised her like this? I don't understand, she said. Everyone wants something. Not everyone. Daniel glanced at his watch, the kind that came free with a purchase, plastic and already yellowing. I need to get back to work, but I'm glad Liam found his mom. He started to walk away. Wait. Victoria didn't know why she said it, just that she couldn't let him disappear. What's your name, your full name? He hesitated. Daniel Brooks. I'm Victoria Hale. Something flickered across his face. Recognition, maybe. Her company had been in the news enough lately, but all he said was, Nice to meet you, Miss Hale. Take care of your son." Then he was gone, disappearing around the corner, leaving Victoria standing in an alley with her child and 1,000 questions she couldn't answer. The security guard finally caught up to them, out of breath. "Ms. Hale, we should get a statement later." She was still staring at the corner where Daniel had vanished. "I need to get Liam home." The ride back to Lake Forest was quiet. Liam dozed against her shoulder while Victoria stared out the window, watching the city give way to suburbs. She kept thinking about Daniel's face, the way he'd refused her money, the way he'd looked at Liam, not like a burden or a problem, but like a kid who mattered. When they got home, Liam went straight to his room to play with his toys. Victoria poured herself a drink, expensive whiskey that Michael had collected, and stood in her kitchen trying to process what had happened. She'd almost lost Liam. That thought kept circling, a shark in dark water. 45 minutes of not knowing if he was hurt, scared, alone. 45 minutes of the worst possibilities crushing her. And a stranger named Daniel Brooks had kept her son safe. Victoria pulled out her phone and typed his name into the search bar. Nothing much came up. No social media presence, no professional profiles. Just a few mentions in public records. But she was good at finding information. It was part of what made her a successful CEO. By Sunday evening, she had an address in Pilsen. A studio apartment in a building that had code violations going back 5 years. Daniel Brooks, single father, worked 3 jobs: dishwasher at Giuseppe's, night stock at a grocery store, and weekend shifts doing janitorial work. No criminal record. Custody of 1 daughter, Emma Brooks, age 5. Victoria stared at the information, something uncomfortable twisting in her chest. Here was a man working himself to death, barely scraping by, and he'd refused her money. Had given her son his only meal without hesitation. What kind of person did that? Monday morning, she called her assistant. "I need you to find someone for me, Daniel Brooks, and I need an address verification. I want to make sure I have the right place." "Of course, Ms. Hale. What's this regarding?" "A personal matter." By Monday afternoon, she had confirmation. Same Daniel Brooks, same address, and a photo from the building's security footage that showed a man carrying a small girl on his shoulders, both of them laughing despite the cold. Victoria looked at that photo for a long time. Then she made a decision. Tuesday morning, she cleared her schedule, something that made her assistant nearly faint, and drove to Pilsen. The neighborhood was worlds away from Lake Forest. Corner stores with barred windows, graffiti tags on brick walls, kids playing basketball on a court with broken nets. Daniel's building was exactly as depressing as the code violation suggested. Cracked concrete steps, a front door that didn't quite close, the smell of something burning from one of the ground floor units. Victoria climbed to the 3rd floor, her heels echoing in the stairwell. Found apartment 3C. Knocked. No answer. She was about to leave when the door across the hall opened. An elderly woman peered out, suspicious. "You looking for Daniel?" "Yes. Is he home?" "Working. Doesn't get back till 5 usually. Then he's got the night shift." The woman's eyes traveled over Victoria's designer coat, her leather bag. "You a social worker or something?" "No, a friend." The woman snorted. "Daniel doesn't have friends who dress like you." "Fair point." Victoria hesitated. "Could you give him a message? Tell him Victoria Hale stopped by." "The CEO." Now the woman looked really suspicious. "What do you want with Daniel?" "Like I said, I'm a friend." Victoria left her card, knowing it was a long shot. Daniel probably wouldn't call. Why would he? She was just another rich person trying to insert herself into his life. But Wednesday afternoon, her phone rang. Unknown number. "This is Victoria Hale." "Ms. Hale." Daniel's voice, cautious. "My neighbor said you came by. Is Liam okay?" "He's fine. I wanted to talk to you." "About what?" Victoria realized she was nervous. When was the last time she'd been nervous? "About a job offer." Silence. "I don't need your charity," Daniel finally said. "It's not charity. It's a legitimate position. Liam hasn't stopped talking about you since Saturday. He needs—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "He needs someone who understands what it's like to be a single parent, someone who will spend time with him, a mentor, a companion." "You want to hire me to hang out with your kid?" "I want to hire you to be part of his life." Good pay. Benefits. You could cut back on your other jobs. Spend more time with your daughter. More silence. Victoria could hear background noise, a TV maybe, or music from a neighbor's apartment. Why? Daniel asked. Because you gave him your lunch. Because you refused my money. Because in 2 minutes, you showed him more genuine kindness than most people in my life have shown me in 2 years. That's not much of a reason. It's the only reason that matters. She heard him sigh, heard the exhaustion in it, the bone-deep weariness of someone who'd been running on empty too long. I need to think about it, he said. That's fair. Take your time. My number's on the card. Miss Hale? His voice softened slightly. Thank you for the offer. Even if I say no, thank you. After they hung up, Victoria sat in her office, staring at the Chicago skyline. She had no idea if Daniel would call back. No idea if this was the stupidest idea she'd ever had or something that might actually help Liam. All she knew was that her son had smiled more talking about Daniel than he had in months. And maybe, just maybe, that was worth the risk. Daniel called back on Friday. Victoria was in the middle of a board meeting when her phone lit up with that same unknown number. She excused herself, ignored the raised eyebrows from the directors, and stepped into the hallway. Miss Hale. Daniel. Her heart was doing something stupid in her chest. Have you thought about it? Yeah. A pause. Can we meet? Talk in person? I don't want to make this decision over the phone. Of course. Where? There's a diner on Ashland. Lou's. You know it? Victoria didn't, but she'd find it. What time? I get off at 3, maybe 3:30? I'll be there. Lou's Diner turned out to be exactly the kind of place Victoria never went. Cracked vinyl booths, laminate tables sticky with years of spilled coffee, a waitress who called everyone Han, and looked like she'd been working there since the Reagan administration. Daniel was already in a corner booth when she arrived, still in his work clothes, smelling faintly of dish soap and fryer grease. He stood when he saw her, old-fashioned manners that surprised her. Thanks for coming, he said. Thank you for calling. They sat. The waitress appeared with coffee that looked strong enough to strip paint. You eat yet? Daniel asked. I'm fine. You sure? The pie here is pretty good. Victoria realized he was trying to be polite, trying to offer her something even though he probably couldn't afford it. The gesture made her throat tight. Maybe just coffee. He ordered a piece of apple pie anyway, and when it came, pushed the plate to the middle of the table with 2 forks. A sharing thing, casual. The kind of thing friends did. They weren't friends, but maybe that's what he was trying to say, that they could be. So, Daniel said, wrapping his hands around his coffee mug, I want to understand what you're really asking. I told you, Liam needs... No, he cut her off, but gently. I mean, what you're really asking. Because from where I'm sitting, this doesn't make sense. You're a CEO. You could hire a dozen nannies, tutors, whoever. Why me? Victoria took a breath. Fair question. Deserved an honest answer. Because Liam lit up when he talked about you. Because in the 2 years since my husband died, I haven't seen him connect with anyone like that. And because... She stopped, surprised by what she was about to say. Because I'm failing him. I work too much. I'm not present. He deserves better than what I'm giving him right now. Daniel studied her face. That's honest. I'm trying to be. Okay. So let me be honest too. He leaned forward. I've got a daughter, Emma. She's 5. If I take this job, she comes with me sometimes. I'm not leaving her with babysitters more than I already do. I wouldn't expect you to. And I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. I didn't go to college. I don't know about wine or opera or whatever rich people talk about. I'm going to teach Liam how to throw a baseball and change a tire and make scrambled eggs. Normal stuff. That's exactly what he needs. You say that now. Daniel's jaw tightened. But what happens when your friends see you hired some broke single dad from Pilsen when they start talking? Because they will talk. Victoria thought about the charity galas, the country club brunches, the carefully curated social circles. He was right. They would absolutely talk. Let them, she said. Easy to say. You think I care what those people think? The words came out sharper than she intended. My husband built that company from nothing. He was a good man who treated people with respect. And when he died, half those people at his funeral were already calculating how to position themselves for the power vacuum. So no, Daniel, I really don't care what they think. He blinked, taken aback by her vehemence. Then slowly, he smiled. Okay then. Okay? I'll take the job. On one condition. Name it. Emma comes to work with me on weekends, and you treat her exactly like you'd treat any other kid. Not charity, not pity, just normal. Victoria extended her hand across the table. Deal. His palm was calloused, warm. The handshake lasted a second longer than professional. When do you want me to start? Daniel asked. Is Monday too soon? He laughed, actually laughed. You don't waste time, do you? Not when it matters. They spent the next hour working out details. Salary that made Daniel's eyes widen. Benefits. A flexible schedule that would let him quit the night shifts but keep some part-time work if he wanted. Victoria watched him process it all, saw the moment he realized this might actually change his life. Why are you doing this? He asked quietly. Really? Victoria took a sip of the terrible coffee, buying herself a moment. You want the truth? Always. Because when I found Liam in that alley and I saw how you'd taken care of him, no hesitation, no expectation of reward, I realized I'd forgotten what that looked like. Kindness without an agenda, and I want my son to grow up around people who still remember. Daniel absorbed that. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone colder, more corporate. He shrugged. I looked you up. You're kind of famous for being ruthless in business. I am ruthless in business. I have to be. But not with Liam. Not with Liam, she agreed. With him, I'm just trying not to screw up. Yeah. Daniel's expression softened. I know that feeling. They finished the pie in comfortable silence. When the check came, Victoria grabbed it before Daniel could protest. Let me get it, he said. I invited you here. You can get the next one. Something passed between them, an acknowledgement that there would be a next one, that this wasn't just a business transaction wrapping up. Outside the diner, February wind cut through the street. Daniel pulled his thin jacket tighter. You need a better coat, Victoria said. I'm fine. It's February in Chicago. You're not fine. She paused. Can I buy you one before you start Monday? Call it a work expense. Ms. Hale, Victoria. If you're going to be around Liam every day, you should probably call me Victoria. He looked uncomfortable. That feels weird. Why? Because you're... He gestured vaguely at her. You. And I'm... Someone I'm employing, someone who's going to help my son. Someone who refused money for doing the right thing. She met his eyes. You're not less than me, Daniel. Don't act like you are. That seemed to shake something loose in him. Okay, Victoria, but I'm still buying my own coat. Stubborn? Yeah, Emma says I got that from my mom. Victoria smiled. I look forward to meeting her. She's shy. Might take her a while to warm up. That's okay. Liam can talk enough for both of them. Daniel laughed again, and Victoria realized she liked the sound. It was genuine, unguarded, so different from the polite social laughter that filled her usual days. I'll see you Monday, he said. What time? Is 9 too early? I'm usually up at 5. 9's practically sleeping in. They said goodbye on the sidewalk. Victoria watched him walk toward the bus stop, hands shoved in his pockets against the cold, and felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope, maybe. Or just the possibility that she'd made a decision that might actually turn out right. Monday morning arrived with more anxiety than Victoria had anticipated. She changed her outfit 3 times. Too formal, too casual, too much like she was trying too hard. Finally settled on jeans and a sweater. Jeans. When was the last time she'd worn jeans on a weekday? Liam bounced around the kitchen, too excited to eat his breakfast. Is Daniel really coming? Today? Right now? Soon, baby. Finish your cereal. What if he doesn't like it here? What if he thinks our house is too big? What if... Liam. Victoria knelt down, put her hands on his shoulders. Daniel's coming because he wants to spend time with you. That's all that matters. And Emma too? Not today. Today's just Daniel. The doorbell rang at exactly 9. Liam sprinted for the door before Victoria could stop him. I got it! She followed more slowly, suddenly nervous in her own house. Ridiculous. This was her employee. She'd hired hundreds of people. Why did this feel different? Because it was different. Because this wasn't about spreadsheets and quarterly projections. This was about her son, her home, the life she'd been failing to build for the last 2 years. Daniel stood on the front step looking uncomfortable in clothes that were clearly his best. Khakis with a crease ironed in, a button-down shirt that was slightly too big, shoes that had been polished but couldn't hide their age. He'd gotten a haircut, shaved, made an effort. "Hi," he said. "Hi." Victoria stepped back. "Come in, please." He walked into the foyer and stopped, taking in the space. The marble floors, the chandelier, the curved staircase that had cost more than most people made in a year. "Big house," he said finally. "Too big," Victoria admitted. "My husband wanted—" She stopped. "It's too big." Liam grabbed Daniel's hand. "Want to see my room? I have a train set and a whole shelf of dinosaurs, and my dad built me a treehouse before he stopped, the way kids do when they remember something sad. "I'd love to see your room," Daniel said gently. "And the treehouse too, if that's okay with your mom." "Of course." Victoria watched them head upstairs, Liam chattering nonstop, Daniel listening with genuine attention. She stood in her enormous foyer in the house that had never felt like home, and wondered if maybe that was about to change. The first week was awkward. Daniel arrived at 9 each morning, spent the day with Liam, and left at 5. He was polite, professional, careful not to overstep. Liam adored him. That was immediately obvious. But there was a distance Daniel maintained, an invisible line he wouldn't cross. On Friday afternoon, Victoria came home early and found them in the backyard. Liam was trying to throw a football, his small arms struggling with the weight. Daniel was coaching him, demonstrating the grip, the motion. "No, like this. See? Fingers on the laces. Then you twist your whole body. Yeah, that's it." The ball spiraled through the air, actually spiraling, and Liam shrieked with delight. "I did it! Did you see? Perfect throw, buddy. Now let's see if you can do it again." Victoria watched from the kitchen window, coffee cup warming her hands. This was what Liam needed. Not expensive tutors or elite preschools, just someone who showed up, who paid attention, who taught him things that mattered. When Daniel noticed her watching, he waved. She waved back, feeling caught. That evening, after Liam was in bed, she found Daniel gathering his things in the kitchen. "How was the first week?" she asked. "Good. Liam's a great kid." "He thinks you hung the moon." Daniel smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "He just needs consistency. Someone who's here." "I'm trying." "I know." He cut her off, but not unkindly. "I wasn't criticizing. You work hard. You're doing your best. But kids, they don't understand busy. They just know if you're there or not." It should have stung, would have stung, coming from anyone else. But Daniel said it matter of fact, no judgment, just truth. "My husband used to say the same thing," Victoria said quietly, "that I worked too much. He was right. I didn't know how to stop. And now? Now he's gone, and I still don't know how to stop. But I hired you. That's something. It's a start." They stood in the kitchen, the silence stretching. Not uncomfortable, just present. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said. "Sure." "Why did you really take this job? And don't say the money. I saw your face when we talked. This scared you." Daniel leaned against the counter. "It did. It does. But Emma deserves better than what I can give her working 3 jobs, and maybe—" He stopped, choosing words. "Maybe I deserve better too. I've been surviving for so long, I forgot what it felt like to actually live." "I understand that. Do you?" He looked at her directly. "Because from the outside, looks like you've got everything. Everything except a life." The words slipped out before she could stop them. "I have money, success, a beautiful son, and I'm still—" She gestured helplessly. "Empty." Daniel nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that." "Do you? I've got Emma. She's everything to me. But some nights, after she's asleep, I sit in our apartment and think, is this it? Is this all there is? Work and worry, and trying to keep our heads above water? What would you want instead?" He laughed, but it was hollow. "I don't even know anymore. College, maybe. Finish the degree I started before Emma's mom got pregnant and disappeared. Or just time. Time to take Emma to the park without checking my watch. Time to read her a full bedtime story instead of the abbreviated version because I have to get to my night shift. You could have that now. If you quit the other jobs. I'm working on it, still wrapping things up at the restaurant. No rush. Take your time. Victoria paused. Bring Emma by tomorrow. Saturday? Let the kids play. We have a whole playroom that never gets used. You sure? I'm sure. The next morning, Daniel arrived with his daughter. Emma was tiny for 5, with dark curls pulled into lopsided pigtails and eyes that took in everything while saying nothing. She hid behind Daniel's leg when Victoria introduced herself. Hi, Emma. I'm Victoria. This is my son, Liam. Liam, bless him, went straight for the direct approach. Want to see my dinosaurs? I have a T-Rex that roars. Emma looked up at her father. Daniel nodded. It's okay, sweetheart. Go ahead. The kids disappeared upstairs. Victoria and Daniel stood in the foyer again, suddenly alone. She's beautiful, Victoria said. Takes after her mom, thankfully. Daniel's expression tightened. Emma's mom was complicated. Left when Emma was 2. Haven't heard from her since. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're better off. He said it flatly, like a fact, but Victoria heard the hurt underneath. Coffee? She offered. Yeah, thanks. They ended up in the kitchen, the only room in the house that felt lived in. Victoria made coffee while Daniel sat at the island, looking around. You cook? He asked. Not really. Margaret, the woman who helps out, she does most of it. I can make basic things, but... She shrugged. Michael was the cook. I was always working. What did he do? Your husband? He built the company I run now. Logistics, supply chain management. Started in his garage, turned it into something worth billions. She handed Daniel a mug. He was brilliant and kind, and I took him for granted. I'm sure that's not true. It is. Victoria sat across from him. I was so focused on helping him grow the business, I forgot to just be with him. And then he had the accident, and suddenly all that time I thought we'd have was gone. Daniel didn't offer platitudes, didn't say it wasn't her fault or that she couldn't have known, just listened. What was the accident? He asked finally. Car crash. Black ice on the expressway. He was driving home from a meeting I was supposed to attend, but I'd sent him instead because I had something else, something that seemed important at the time. Her voice cracked. I don't even remember what it was. Victoria, I killed him. The words ripped out of her. I sent him out in bad weather because I was too busy and he died, and now Liam doesn't have a father, and I don't. She was crying. When had she started crying? Daniel was around the island, crouching next to her chair, his hand on her arm. You didn't kill him. It was an accident, a terrible accident, but it wasn't your fault. How do you know? Because fault requires intent, and you loved him. I can hear it in your voice. You loved him, and you lost him, and that's tragic. But it's not the same as killing him. Victoria looked at him through tears. You're very wise for someone who washes dishes for a living. I've had a lot of practice at guilt. Emma's mom left because I couldn't provide the life she wanted. Couldn't make enough money. Couldn't be enough. I blamed myself for years. But my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, you met her, she told me something that helped. She said guilt is just love with nowhere to go. Victoria inhaled shakily. That's exactly what it is. They stayed like that, her crying, him crouching beside her chair with his hand on her arm, until the storm passed. When she finally stopped, she felt wrung out, but clearer. Sorry, she said. Don't apologize. I've cried in plenty of diners. You can cry in your own kitchen. That made her laugh, watery but real. Thank you. For what? For not treating me like I'm made of glass. Everyone else does. They tiptoe around Michael's death like saying his name will break me. Will it? No. Pretending he didn't exist breaks me. He was real. Our marriage was real. The good and the bad, all of it was real. Upstairs they heard shrieking laughter, both kids playing together. Think they're okay? Daniel asked. I think they're perfect. He stood, offering her his hand. She took it, let him pull her up. You want to check on them? He asked. In a minute. Let them play. They made more coffee. Fell into easier conversation. Daniel's childhood in Indiana. Victoria's ambitious parents, who'd never understood why she married someone they considered beneath her, shared histories of feeling like outsiders, even in their own lives. "Can I ask you something?" Daniel said eventually. "Anything." "Why didn't you remarry? I'm sure you've had offers." "Woman like you." "Woman like me is terrifying to most men." Victoria smiled wryly. "I make more money than they do. I'm smarter than they are, and I don't pretend otherwise. That tends to be a problem." "Their loss. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just not ready. I don't know if I'll ever be ready." "That's fair." Daniel traced the rim of his mug. "I don't think about dating, don't have time, don't have the energy. And honestly, the idea of letting someone that close again—" He shook his head. "Emma's mom leaving destroyed me. I'm not rushing to repeat that." "So we're both broken." "Maybe. Or maybe we're just careful." Victoria liked that reframing. Careful instead of broken. It felt less hopeless. The kids eventually came downstairs, Liam dragging Emma by the hand. "Can Emma stay for lunch, please?" Victoria looked at Daniel. "You're welcome to stay." "We should probably go. I've got—" "Stay," she said again, meaning it. "Please, let me make lunch, or attempt to make lunch. Fair warning, it might be terrible." Daniel smiled. Terrible lunch sounds perfect. They ended up making grilled cheese together, Daniel taking over when Victoria nearly burned the first batch, the kids setting the table with mismatched enthusiasm. It was chaotic and messy and nothing like the formal dinners Victoria usually hosted. It was wonderful. After lunch, the kids played in the backyard while Victoria and Daniel cleaned up, working side by side at the sink, washing dishes like normal people. Not CEO and employee, just two single parents finding their way. "This was nice," Daniel said, drying a plate. "It was." "Same time next week? How about Tuesday and Thursday? And—" Victoria stopped herself. "Sorry, I'm being pushy." "No, you're being a mom who wants her kid to be happy." He bumped her shoulder with his, gentle, friendly. "Tuesday and Thursday sound good. Emma would love it." When they left that afternoon, Emma actually hugged Victoria goodbye. Shy, quick, but real. And Liam talked about Emma non-stop through dinner, already planning their next playdate. That night, Victoria sat in her bedroom, looking out at the grounds. For the first time in 2 years, the house didn't feel quite so empty. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Thanks for today. Emma hasn't stopped smiling. Daniel." Victoria saved the number, typed back, "Liam either, same time Tuesday?" "We'll be there." She set the phone down, that small flutter of hope expanding in her chest. This wasn't romance, wasn't even friendship yet, really, just two people figuring out how to help their kids. But maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. The routine they built over the next 2 months felt natural in a way Victoria hadn't expected. Daniel arrived most mornings by 9, sometimes with Emma in tow, sometimes alone. The kids became inseparable, Liam teaching Emma about dinosaurs and space, Emma showing Liam how to braid hair on his stuffed animals. The house filled with laughter and noise and the kind of chaos Victoria had stopped believing was possible. But it wasn't all smooth. 3 weeks in, Victoria's mother came for a visit. Patricia Chambers was old money and old opinions. The kind of woman who'd never worked a day in her life but had very strong thoughts about people who did. She arrived in a town car, took one look at Daniel playing tag with the kids in the yard, and pursed her lips. "Victoria, darling, a word?" They went inside. Victoria already knew what was coming. "Who is that man with Liam?" "His name is Daniel. He works for us." "Works for you how exactly? He looks like—" Patricia gestured vaguely. "Well, he looks like he should be mowing the lawn, not playing with your son." "He's Liam's mentor and my friend." "Friend?" Her mother's eyebrow arched. "Victoria, people will talk. Let them talk. You don't understand. Your position in society, us." "My position in society?" Victoria felt the anger rising. "I run a billion-dollar company. I employ 10,000 people. I don't need society's approval for who I hire to spend time with my son. But hiring some poor man from wherever, his name is Daniel. He's from Pilsen, and he's better with Liam than anyone you'd approve of." Patricia's expression hardened. "Your father would be very disappointed. Dad's been dead for 5 years. And he never approved of Michael either, remember? Said he was too working class, too ambitious. Turned out Michael was worth 10 of your country club friends." "That's unfair." "Is it?" Victoria crossed her arms. You want to know why I hired Daniel? Because he gave Liam his only meal when my son was lost and scared. He didn't ask for anything, didn't expect anything, just helped, because that's who he is. When was the last time anyone in your world did something like that? Her mother had no answer for that. The conversation ended badly. Patricia left in a huff, and Victoria found Daniel on the back porch, watching the kids play. Heard some of that? He said quietly. I can leave if... Don't. Victoria sat beside him. Please don't. She's wrong. About everything. She's your mother. She's worried about you. She's worried about what her friends think. That's different. Daniel was quiet for a moment. This is going to keep happening, you know. People questioning why I'm here, what I want from you. I know. And you're okay with that? Victoria looked at him. Really looked. He'd put on a little weight since starting, the gauntness in his face filling out. His clothes fit better because she'd quietly arranged for a modest wardrobe allowance. He smiled more, laughed easier. He was becoming the person he'd been before life had ground him down. I'm more than okay with it, she said. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, something deeper. Okay then. But her mother wasn't the only one who noticed the growing closeness between them. By April, the whispers at Victoria's business events had gotten louder. At a fundraiser for the Art Institute, she overheard two women talking by the bar. Did you hear Victoria Hale hired some handyman to watch her son? I heard he's practically living there. Very inappropriate. Well, she always was unconventional. Remember when she insisted on working while pregnant? As if she needed the money. Victoria gripped her champagne glass so hard she thought it might shatter. Ladies, she stepped into their conversation, watching them freeze. If you're going to gossip about me, at least get your facts straight. Daniel isn't a handyman. He's Liam's mentor. And he's a better father figure than either of your ex-husbands ever were to your kids. She walked away before they could respond, her heart pounding. Across the room, her friend Catherine caught her eye and came over. That was spectacular, Catherine said. Also, probably not wise. I don't care. I can see that. Want to tell me what's really going on? They found a quiet corner. Catherine was one of the few people in Victoria's life who'd known her before the money, before the CEO title. They'd been roommates in college, before Victoria met Michael, before everything changed. There's nothing going on, Victoria said. Daniel works for me. That's it. Uh-huh. And I'm the Queen of England. Catherine, honey, I've known you for 15 years. I saw how you looked at Michael, and I see how you look at Daniel. It's not the same, but it's something. Victoria took a long drink of champagne. It can't be something. He works for me. It would be completely inappropriate. Since when do you care about inappropriate? Since... Victoria stopped. Since when? Since I don't want to mess this up. Liam needs him. I need him. But not like that. Are you sure? No. She wasn't sure. That was the problem. The gala continued around them. Wealthy people in expensive clothes, making small talk and large donations, all of it feeling increasingly hollow. Victoria excused herself early, claiming a headache that wasn't entirely a lie. When she got home, the house was dark except for a light in the kitchen. She found Daniel there, reading at the table while Emma and Liam slept upstairs. He'd stayed late to watch the kids while she went to the fundraiser. You're back early, he said, looking up. It was terrible. People are terrible. What happened? Victoria told him about the women at the bar, about her mother's visit, about all the small cruelties that came with being scrutinized. Daniel listened without interrupting. I'm making your life harder, he said when she finished. No. You're making it better. They're making it harder. Same result. Not even close. Victoria sat across from him. Daniel, if I fired you tomorrow, would my life be simpler? Probably. Would it be better? Not a chance. You might change your mind about that. I won't. He studied her face in the dim kitchen light. You're not like other people I've met. Is that good or bad? I'm still figuring that out. It should have stung. Instead, it made her laugh. Fair enough. Want some tea? I made a pot. They drank tea in companionable silence. Outside, April rain started pattering against the windows. The house felt smaller, cozier, less like a museum and more like a home. Can I ask you something? Victoria said eventually. Always. Do you ever regret taking this job? Honestly, Daniel considered the question. Sometimes I feel like I'm playing pretend, like I'm going to wake up back in my studio apartment, heading to my third shift, and this will all have been a dream. But then Emma laughs. Really laughs. Not the scared little giggle she used to do. And I realize maybe I deserve this. Maybe we both do. You do deserve it, both of you. You keep saying that. Daniel set down his mug. Why? Why do you believe in me so much when you barely know me? I know enough. I know you gave Liam your lunch. I know you work 3 jobs to support your daughter. I know you're kind and patient and genuine in a world where those things are rare. You're romanticizing me. I'm seeing you clearly. The air between them felt charged, dangerous. Victoria stood up, putting distance between them. I should check on Liam. Victoria, Daniel's voice stopped her at the doorway. Thank you for tonight, for this job, for everything. You're welcome. Upstairs, she found both kids asleep in Liam's room. Emma curled up on the floor with a pile of blankets. Liam sprawled across his bed. They looked peaceful, happy, like they'd found something neither had expected. Victoria knew the feeling. By May, Daniel had quit his other jobs entirely. It was Victoria's doing. She'd given him a raise substantial enough that he couldn't justify the exhaustion anymore. At first he'd protested, but she'd been firm. You're worth it, and you can't help Liam if you're running yourself into the ground. The extra time transformed him. He started taking online classes toward the engineering degree he'd abandoned, started cooking real meals instead of surviving on whatever was cheapest, started looking less like a man barely hanging on and more like someone building a life. And Victoria noticed. She tried not to, but she noticed everything. The way he rolled up his sleeves when playing with the kids, how he sang off-key while making breakfast, the rare smile that reached his eyes when something genuinely delighted him. She was in trouble. She knew it. June brought Liam's 7th birthday. Victoria wanted to throw him a party, the kind with bounce houses and magicians and too much sugar. But Liam had other ideas. Can we just have Emma and Daniel and maybe go to the zoo? The zoo? Baby, we could rent out a whole venue. I just want the zoo, please. How could she say no to that? So the 4 of them spent a Saturday at Lincoln Park Zoo. It was perfect in its simplicity, watching the lions, feeding the giraffes, eating overpriced ice cream that dripped down their hands. Normal family things, except they weren't a family. Not really, but it felt like one. At the penguin exhibit, Daniel lifted Emma onto his shoulders so she could see better. Liam grabbed Victoria's hand, pointing excitedly at the bird swimming. Dad would have loved this, he said suddenly. Victoria's breath caught. Liam rarely mentioned Michael anymore. He would have, she agreed quietly. He loved penguins. Do you think he'd like Daniel? The question shouldn't have surprised her, but it did. Yes, I think he would. Good. Because I really like Daniel. And Emma too. They feel like family. Yeah. Victoria's voice came out rough. They do. Daniel glanced over, must have seen something in her expression, because he made his way over. Everything okay? Fine, just... She gestured vaguely at the penguins, at the kids, at everything. This is nice. It is, he paused. Liam's lucky to have you. Lucky to have him. They stood together, watching their children watch the penguins, and Victoria felt that dangerous warmth spreading through her chest again. This wasn't just gratitude, wasn't just friendship. It was something else, something that scared her. That evening, after cake and presents back at the house, after Emma and Liam had crashed from sugar highs, Daniel found Victoria on the back porch. Good day? He asked. The best. She meant it. Thank you for being here. Where else would I be? Exactly. Where else would he be? This had become his life too, his and Emma's. They'd woven themselves into the fabric of the Hale household so thoroughly that Victoria couldn't imagine it without them. Daniel, She stopped, not sure how to finish. What? Nothing. Just thank you. But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. It was the realization that somewhere between February and June, between the alley and this moment, she'd started falling for him. And she had no idea what to do about it. The realization terrified her enough that she pulled back, started working longer hours again, made excuses for why she couldn't be home for dinner, put distance between herself and the growing feelings she didn't know how to handle. Daniel noticed. Of course he noticed. "You've been busy lately," he said one evening in early July. "Big merger. It's complicated." "Right, the merger." He didn't believe her. She could hear it in his voice. "Daniel, it's fine. You don't owe me an explanation. I work for you." The words stung because they were technically true, but felt completely wrong. He didn't just work for her, not anymore. But she couldn't say that without admitting what she was running from. "I should go," he said. "Emma's with the sitter, and I don't like leaving her too long." After he left, Victoria sat in her empty kitchen and admitted the truth. She was scared. Scared of getting hurt again. Scared of hurting him. Scared of what it would mean if she let herself feel this. Her phone rang. "Catherine." "You're being an idiot," Catherine said without preamble. "Hello to you too. I saw the way you looked at him at Liam's birthday, and I saw the way he looked at you, so why are you hiding?" "I'm not hiding." "You're absolutely hiding. You've been in love with him for months, and instead of doing something about it, you're working 70-hour weeks like that's going to make it go away." "He works for me. It would be inappropriate, a power imbalance. I could ruin his life, or you could make both your lives better. But you won't know unless you're honest with him." After they hung up, Victoria stared at her phone for a long time. Catherine was right. She was always right. But knowing it and acting on it were different things. The decision was made for her a week later. Victoria was invited to a charity gala at the Drake Hotel, the kind of event she couldn't skip without causing offense. Black tie, $500 a plate, all of Chicago's elite in one room. She'd planned to go alone, but Liam had other ideas. "Can Daniel come? Please. He's never been to a fancy party." "Sweetheart, Daniel might not want—" "I'll ask him." Before she could stop him, Liam had video called Daniel. Within 5 minutes, it was settled. Daniel would attend as her guest. Victoria spent the rest of the week simultaneously dreading and anticipating it. The night of the gala, Daniel showed up in a rented tux that fit him surprisingly well. His hair was combed back, his jaw freshly shaved. He looked uncomfortable but determined. "You look beautiful," he said when Victoria answered the door in a navy gown. "You look—" She stopped. He looked devastating, actually. "Nice, you clean up well." "I borrowed the tux from a friend. Probably should have mentioned I've never actually been to anything like this." "You'll be fine. Just stay close to me." The Drake was everything Victoria expected. Chandeliers and champagne, string quartets and networking disguised as conversation. Daniel stayed by her side, increasingly tense as people stared. And they did stare. At his less expensive tux. At his calloused hands. At the fact that he clearly didn't belong in this world. Victoria watched the whispers start. Watched people lean close to each other, eyes flicking toward Daniel, lips moving behind champagne flutes. Saw the exact moment Daniel noticed it too. "I shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "You belong here as much as anyone." We both know that's not true. At dinner, they were seated with some of Victoria's business associates. The conversation flowed around Daniel, mergers and acquisitions, stock prices, vacation homes in the Hamptons. He tried to participate, but kept getting frozen out by subtle shifts in body language, words redirected to Victoria as if he hadn't spoken. Then Jonathan Pemberton, a hedge fund manager Victoria despised, turned to Daniel with a smile that was all teeth. "So Daniel, what is it you do?" The table quieted, everyone listening. "I work with children, mentoring mostly." "How noble. And how did you meet our dear Victoria?" "I helped her son when he was lost." "Ah, yes, I heard about that. Very good Samaritan of you." Pemberton's tone dripped condescension. "Must be quite a change, going from whatever you were doing before to spending time at the Hale estate, rather like winning the lottery, I imagine." Daniel's jaw tightened. "It's a job. I earn my pay." Of course. No judgment. We all have to make a living somehow." Victoria felt rage building in her chest. "Jonathan, maybe you should—" "I'm just making conversation, Victoria. No need to get defensive about your charity case." The words hung in the air. Charity case. As if Daniel was some pet project, some amusing diversion. Daniel stood up so abruptly his chair scraped across the floor. "Excuse me, I need some air." He walked away before Victoria could stop him. She turned to Pemberton with a fury that made him lean back. "You're an ass, Jonathan. You always have been. But that was beneath even you. I was just, save it. And next time you want to donate to one of my foundations, don't bother." She went after Daniel, finding him on the terrace overlooking Michigan Avenue. The July night was humid, the city lights bright below. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" "You didn't say it. I should have stopped it sooner. I should have—" "What?" Daniel turned to face her. "Defended me? Told them I'm not just some charity case? Because that's what I am, Victoria. To them, to everyone in there, that's all I'll ever be." "That's not true, isn't it? I'm the poor guy from Pilsen who got lucky, who got hired by a rich widow. They'll never see me as anything else." "I don't see you like that." "Don't you?" His voice was raw. "At least a little?" The question hit her like a slap. "No. I see someone who's kind and genuine and better than anyone in that room. I see someone who makes my son laugh. Someone who—" She stopped, the words catching in her throat. "Someone who what?" Victoria took a breath. Here it was. The moment she'd been running from for months. "Someone I'm falling in love with." The silence stretched between them. Daniel stared at her, his expression unreadable. "You can't say things like that," he finally said. "Why not?" "Because I work for you. Because this is complicated. Because—" He ran a hand through his hair, destroying the neat styling. "Because I've been in love with you since April, and I've been trying so hard not to be." Now it was Victoria's turn to be speechless. "You— what?" "You're brilliant and beautiful, and you care about people in a way that's rare. You make me want to be better. And I know it's inappropriate. I know I'm just the guy you hired, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel this." Victoria closed the distance between them. "Then don't pretend." Victoria, she kissed him. Just did it before she could overthink it. His lips were warm, soft, tasting like champagne. For a second he froze. Then he was kissing her back, his hands coming up to frame her face, gentle and sure. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Daniel rested his forehead against hers. "This is a terrible idea," he whispered. "Probably. Everyone in there is going to have opinions. Let them. I don't want to screw this up. What we have with the kids, we won't." Victoria pulled back to look at him. "We'll figure it out, together." "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Daniel kissed her again, deeper this time, and Victoria felt 2 years of loneliness and grief start to crack open. Not disappearing. That wasn't how healing worked, but making room for something new, something real. When they finally went back inside, hand in hand, the ballroom went quiet. People stared, whispered. Jonathan Pemberton's smirk disappeared. Victoria didn't care. She pulled Daniel closer, making it clear to everyone exactly where things stood. "You ready for this?" she murmured. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." They danced. A slow song, something classical Victoria didn't recognize. Daniel wasn't a great dancer, kept apologizing for stepping on her feet. But it didn't matter. Nothing mattered except this moment, this choice to stop running from what she felt. When the song ended, Catherine appeared at Victoria's elbow. "About damn time," she said, grinning. Victoria laughed. "Shut up. Never. I'm going to remind you of this for the rest of your life. You know that, right?" "I'm counting on it." They left the gala early, driving home through the warm summer night. Daniel held her hand across the center console, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "What do we tell the kids?" he asked. "The truth? That we care about each other, that nothing else is changing. Everything's changing. The important things aren't." Victoria glanced at him. "They still have us, they still have each other. We're just more now." "More sounds good." At the house, they found Margaret reading in the living room, both kids asleep upstairs. "Good evening?" she asked, taking in their linked hands with a knowing smile. "Very good," Victoria said. After Margaret left, Victoria and Daniel stood in the foyer, the same place they'd stood months ago, when this was just a job offer and a desperate hope. "Stay," Victoria said. "Tonight. Just stay." "Victoria, not like that, just stay. We can talk. Or not talk. I just don't want you to leave."
Daniel smiled, soft and real. Okay, I'll stay. They ended up on the back porch talking until dawn, about everything and nothing, about their fears and hopes, about Michael and Emma's mother, about building something new from broken pieces. When the sun came up over Lake Forest, painting the sky pink and gold, Victoria leaned against Daniel's shoulder and thought about how far she'd come since that February afternoon when Liam disappeared. She'd been so lost then, drowning in grief and work and the weight of doing everything alone. And now she wasn't alone anymore. Neither of them were. Morning came too fast. Victoria woke on the porch swing, Daniel's jacket draped over her shoulders, the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. She found him inside, making breakfast while trying to keep quiet. He'd rolled up his shirt sleeves, the tux jacket abandoned somewhere, looking more at home in her kitchen than she'd ever felt. "You're supposed to be sleeping," he said when he noticed her. "Couldn't. Too much on my mind." "Good things or bad things?" Victoria crossed to him, slipped her arms around his waist from behind. "Terrifying things. But good." He turned in her embrace, kissed her forehead. "We should probably talk about what happens now." "I know." But before they could, small feet thundered down the stairs. Liam appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes, then froze when he saw them standing close together. "Daniel stayed over?" Victoria and Daniel exchanged glances. Here it was. The conversation they'd known was coming but hadn't planned for. "Yeah, buddy," Daniel said. "We were talking late, so I stayed." "About what?" Victoria knelt down to Liam's level. "About how Daniel and I care about each other. As more than just friends." Liam's face went through several expressions: confusion, understanding, then pure joy. "Like how Dad used to care about you?" The question punched the air from her lungs. "No, baby. Nobody will ever be exactly like Dad. But Daniel he's special to me. Is that okay with you? Are you going to get married?" Victoria laughed, overwhelmed. "We just figured out we like each other. Marriage is way down the road." "But maybe someday," Daniel crouched beside Victoria. "Maybe someday. If your mom says yes, and if you're okay with it." Liam threw his arms around both of them. "I'm so okay with it." Emma appeared then, drawn by the noise. She took one look at the three of them huddled together, and her face fell. "Are you leaving?" she asked Daniel, her voice small. "Are we going back to the old apartment?" "What?" "No, sweetheart, come here." Daniel opened his arms and Emma ran into them. "We're not going anywhere. Your home is here, with Liam and Victoria." "Promise?" "I promise." Emma looked at Victoria, uncertain. "Is that okay? Can we really stay?" Victoria's heart cracked open. "Emma, you're part of this family, both of you. That's not changing. Even though you and Daddy are," Emma scrunched up her nose, "kissing and stuff?" Despite everything, Victoria laughed. "Even though we're kissing and stuff?" "Gross," Liam declared, then immediately contradicting himself. "But also good. Can we have pancakes now?" The kids ran off to set the table, leaving Victoria and Daniel in the kitchen. "That went better than I expected," Daniel said. "They're resilient, more than we give them credit for. Still, we should probably take this slow, for their sake." Victoria nodded, but her stomach twisted. Slow made sense. Slow was smart. So why did it feel like he was already pulling away? The next few weeks were strange. Daniel still came to work every day, still spent time with Liam, but there was a new tension between him and Victoria. They'd stolen kisses when the kids weren't looking, held hands under the dinner table, but Daniel always left at the end of the day. Always went back to the small apartment he and Emma still technically lived in, even though they spent most of their time at the estate. "You could just move in," Victoria said one evening in late July. They were in the garden, watching the kids chase fireflies. "That's a big step. You're already here every day. As an employee, moving in would be different." "Why? Because of what people would think?" Daniel sighed. "Partly. And partly because I don't want to rush this. What if it doesn't work out? What if we're better as whatever we were before?" "You don't believe that?" "No, but I'm scared of screwing this up." He took her hand. "I've got one shot at giving Emma a stable life. If I move in with you and it falls apart, I've uprooted her for nothing." Victoria wanted to argue. Wanted to say it wouldn't fall apart, that they'd make it work, but she'd thought that about her marriage too, and look how that ended. Michael was gone. Stability was an illusion. Okay, she said instead. We'll take it slow. But slow felt like suffocation.
By August, the media had caught wind of their relationship. A photo from the gala surfaced, Victoria and Daniel dancing, her head on his shoulder, his arms around her waist. The caption read, "Billionaire CEO, Victoria Hale's new romance, from rags to riches." The article was vicious. It painted Daniel as a gold digger, Victoria as desperate and foolish. It dredged up Michael's death, questioned her judgment, implied she was neglecting Liam for a fling with the help. Victoria read it on her phone during a board meeting and felt physically sick. "You okay?" her CFO asked. "Fine. Let's continue." But she wasn't fine. The article had been shared thousands of times. Her phone was lighting up with messages, some supportive, most judgmental. Her mother called 3 times before Victoria finally answered. "I told you people would talk," Patricia said. No preamble. "Hello, Mother. That article is everywhere. My friends are calling. They're asking questions. Victoria, you need to put out a statement. Distance yourself from this man before it damages your reputation further." "His name is Daniel, and I'm not distancing myself from anyone." "Don't be stubborn. This will blow over if I just what? Pretend I don't care about him? Pretend he's not important to me and Liam? I'm not doing that." "Then you're a fool." The line went dead. Victoria sat in her office, staring at the Chicago skyline, and wondered if her mother was right. Maybe she was a fool. Maybe she'd risked everything, her reputation, her company, Liam's stability, for something that was doomed from the start. Her assistant knocked. "Ms. Hale? Daniel's here. He says it's important." Victoria's heart sank. She knew what was coming. Daniel looked terrible when he walked in, pale, exhausted, holding his phone like it was a weapon. "You saw the article," Victoria said. "Everyone saw the article. I've had 3 reporters show up at my apartment. Emma's scared. She doesn't understand why people are taking pictures of us. I'm sorry. I can hire security, make sure they leave you alone. That's not the point." Daniel set his phone down. "The point is, this is getting out of control. People are digging into my past, Emma's mother, everything. They're treating me like I'm some kind of con artist. I'll release a statement. Make it clear that you're not..." "What? Not a gold digger? Not using you?" Daniel laughed bitterly. "Victoria, any statement you make will just confirm what they already think, that I'm with you for your money." "I don't care what they think." "Well, I do." His voice rose. "I care that Emma has to hear people say terrible things about her father. I care that Liam might see this someday and wonder if I was just using his mom. I care that your business associates think you've lost your mind." "So what are you saying?" Daniel ran his hands through his hair. "I don't know. Maybe we need to take a step back. Let things cool down." There it was, the thing Victoria had been dreading since the night of the gala. "You want to break up?" "I want to protect our kids, both of them." "We can protect them together. We don't have to..." "How?" Daniel's eyes were anguished. "How do we protect them from this? From the cameras and the articles and the constant judgment. I can't give you what you need, Victoria. I can't be the partner a CEO needs. I'm just a guy from Pilsen who got in over his head." "That's not true. You're..." "Stop." His voice broke. "Please stop telling me I'm more than I am. Because right now, standing here, knowing my daughter is hiding in our apartment because people won't leave us alone, I feel pretty small." Victoria felt tears burning behind her eyes. "So that's it? We just give up?" "I'm not giving up. I'm being realistic. Maybe we rushed into this. Maybe we should have stayed, whatever we were before." "Employer and employee, is that what you want?" Daniel looked at her, and the pain in his expression nearly broke her. "I want Emma to be safe. I want Liam to be happy. And right now, us being together is threatening both those things." "You're wrong." "Am I?" "Because from where I'm standing, I've brought nothing but trouble into your life. You've brought joy and love and a media circus that's questioning your judgment and hurting your reputation. Be honest, Victoria. Your board is probably already discussing this. Your investors are worried. How long before this starts affecting your company?" He was right. Her CFO had already mentioned concerns from shareholders. But Victoria didn't care about shareholders. She cared about Daniel, about the life they'd started building. "I love you," she said desperately. "Doesn't that matter?" "It matters. But maybe it's not enough." The words hung between them. Final. Devastating. "If you walk out that door," Victoria said quietly, "if you end this because you're scared of what people think, you're doing exactly what they expect. You're proving them right." "Maybe they are right." Daniel picked up his phone. "I'll finish out the month. For Liam. But after that, I think it's better if Emma and I step back." "Daniel, please. I'm sorry." He left. Victoria stood in her office, surrounded by glass and steel and all the trappings of success, and felt more alone than she had in the 2 years since Michael died. The rest of August was torture. Daniel came to work, but the easy warmth between them was gone. He was polite, professional, distant. The kids noticed. Liam asked why Daniel didn't smile anymore. Emma started having nightmares again. And Victoria buried herself in work, the way she always did when things got hard. "You look like hell," Catherine said when they met for lunch in early September. "Thanks." "What happened with Daniel?" Victoria told her everything, the article, the fight, the way he'd pulled away. Catherine listened, then shook her head. "He's scared." "I know." "No, I mean, he's terrified. Victoria, the man spent years barely surviving. Now he's got this life with you, and people are telling him he doesn't deserve it. Of course he's running." "So what do I do?" "Fight for him. Show him he's wrong." "I tried." "He won't listen." "Then try harder." Catherine leaned forward. "You spent 2 years shutting everyone out after Michael died. You were drowning, and you refused to let anyone help. Daniel's doing the same thing. Don't let him." That night, Victoria came home to find Daniel packing up his things from the room he'd been using as an office. Textbooks, Emma's drawings, the small pieces of life he'd built in her house. "What are you doing?" "Month's up tomorrow. I'm just getting organized." "You don't have to do this." Daniel kept packing. "Yeah, I do." "Why? Because some strangers wrote mean things? Because my mother disapproves? Since when do you care about that?" "Since those strangers started camping outside Emma's school, since she came home crying because another kid said her daddy was a gold digger and she didn't know what that meant." Victoria's stomach dropped. "When did this happen?" "Yesterday. I was going to tell you, but—" He shrugged. "What's the point? It doesn't change anything." "It changes everything. Daniel, we can switch schools, hire security. So Emma can spend her childhood surrounded by bodyguards because her father was dumb enough to fall in love with someone out of his league. That's not the life I want for her." "Out of your league?" Victoria felt anger replacing desperation. "Is that really what you think? That I'm too good for you?" "Aren't you?" "No, I'm a mess, Daniel. I work too much. I don't know how to cook. I nearly lost my son because I wasn't paying attention. You're kind and patient, and you've built a life from nothing. You're not beneath me. If anything—" "Stop." Daniel set down the box he was holding. "Just stop, because every time you say things like that, it makes this harder." "Good. It should be hard. Giving up on us should be the hardest thing you've ever done. You think this is easy for me?" His voice rose. "You think I want to walk away from you, from Liam? This house is the first place that's felt like home in years. You're the first person who's made me feel like I could be more than just surviving, and I'm leaving anyway because I love you too much to let you ruin your life for me." "You're not ruining my life. You're—" The front door slammed. Liam's voice called out, "Mom? Daniel? Where are you?" They both fell silent. Victoria wiped her eyes. Daniel turned away, composing himself. Liam appeared in the doorway, Emma right behind him. Both kids took in the packed boxes, the tension in the room. "What's going on?" Liam asked, his voice small. Daniel crouched down. "Emma and I are going to go stay at our old apartment for a while." "Why?" Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Because—" Daniel looked at Victoria helplessly. "Because grown-ups are stupid," Victoria said. She knelt beside Daniel. "And we're figuring some things out." "Are you breaking up?" Liam asked. "Like Jacob's parents did before they got divorced?" "We're not married, buddy, so we can't get divorced." "But you love each other." Liam looked between them. "You said you did." "We do," Victoria said. "Sometimes that's not enough." "That's dumb." Liam crossed his arms. "Love should be enough." out of the mouths of 7-year-olds. It's complicated, Daniel said gently. Because people are mean? Emma asked. Because of the article. Daniel and Victoria exchanged shocked looks. You know about the article? Victoria asked. Kids at school talked about it. They said Daniel was only with you for money. Emma's chin trembled. But that's not true. Right, Daddy? No, sweetheart, that's not true. Then why are you leaving? Daniel had no answer for that. Because he's scared, Victoria said quietly. And I'm scared too. We're both scared of messing this up. But you already messed it up, Liam pointed out, by being scared. The kid had a point. Daniel stood up, ran his hands through his hair. Liam, Emma, can you give us a minute? Are you going to fix it? Liam asked. I don't know. You should try. That's what you always tell me. Try even when it's hard. After the kids left, Victoria and Daniel stood in the half-packed room. They're smarter than us, Daniel said. Most people are. He laughed, broken and tired. I don't know how to do this, Victoria. I don't know how to be with you and protect Emma and deal with all the... He gestured vaguely. All the outside noise. Neither do I. But I know I'm tired of being scared. I've been scared since Michael died. Scared of failing Liam, scared of running the company into the ground, scared of being alone forever. And then you showed up, and I was scared of that too. Scared of caring about you, scared of what it would mean if I let myself love you. And now? Now I'm still scared, but I'm more scared of losing you. Daniel closed his eyes. The article said I was using you. I don't care what the article said. Your board does. Your investors do. What if they're right? What if being with me damages everything you've built? Then I'll build something else. Daniel, I spent my whole marriage building a company with Michael. And it was good, it was important, but you know what I regret? I regret every dinner I missed, every bedtime story I didn't read, every moment I chose work over him. And when he died, I did the same thing with Liam. Worked more, felt less, pretended if I just stayed busy enough I wouldn't have to face how empty everything was. Victoria, I'm not finished. You changed that. You and Emma, you brought life back into this house. You made Liam laugh again. You made me feel again. And if loving you cost me my reputation, my standing in society, even my company, it's worth it. You're worth it. Tears were running down Daniel's face. I can't be the reason you lose everything. You won't be. I'll be the reason, because I chose you, because I choose you. Even knowing what it'll cost? Especially knowing what it'll cost. Because the alternative, living without you, costs more. Daniel pulled her into his arms. Victoria felt his heart racing against hers, felt the trembling in his hands. I'm still scared, he whispered. Me too. But let's be scared together. He kissed her then, desperate and relieved and still terrified, but choosing her anyway. Choosing this. Choosing the risk. When they broke apart, Liam and Emma were peeking around the doorframe. Did you fix it? Liam asked. We're working on it, Victoria said. Does that mean we can stay? Emma's voice was hopeful. Daniel looked at Victoria. She nodded. Yes, sweetheart. We can stay. The kids cheered, running in to hug them both, and Victoria, standing in her home with Daniel's arms around her and both their children pressed against them, thought maybe, just maybe, they could make this work. The next morning, Victoria called an emergency board meeting. She walked into the conference room with her head high and her resignation letter in her pocket. If it came to choosing between the company and Daniel, the choice was already made. But she hoped it wouldn't come to that. I'm sure you've all seen the recent media coverage, she began, and I'm sure you have concerns. So let me address them directly. Yes, I'm in a relationship with Daniel Brooks. Yes, he works for me. No, he's not using me. No, I haven't lost my mind, and no, I'm not going to end it to protect the company's image. The board members exchanged glances. Her CFO spoke first. Victoria, we're not asking you to end your personal relationship. We're asking you to be discreet. The optics are that a successful woman is dating someone from a different socioeconomic background. If that makes people uncomfortable, that's their problem. It's our problem when shareholders start questioning your judgment. Then let them question it. My judgment built this company into what it is. One relationship doesn't change that. It does if it becomes a distraction. Victoria set her resignation letter on the table. If the board feels my personal life is affecting my ability to lead this company, I'll step down, right now, but I won't be bullied into choosing between my work and my family. Silence. Finally, the chairman, an older man who'd been Michael's mentor, spoke. Victoria, no one's asking you to step down. We're just concerned. Then be concerned. But trust me to handle it. I've never let you down before. What about the media attention? I'll release a statement. Something clear and direct. After that, we don't comment. We let the work speak for itself. The meeting continued another hour, but Victoria had made her point. The board wasn't happy, but they weren't pushing her out either. For now, that was enough. That evening, she and Daniel sat down with the kids. Things are going to be different for a while, Victoria said. People might say mean things, take pictures, ask questions. We know, Liam said. We've been talking about it. You have? Emma and I decided we don't care what other people think. We know what's real. Daniel squeezed Victoria's hand. When did you get so wise? I'm 7 now. I'm basically a grown-up. That made everyone laugh. Okay, basically a grown-up, Victoria said. Here's the deal. We stick together, as a family. And we don't let anyone make us feel bad about that. Agreed? Agreed, both kids chorused. Later, after Liam and Emma were asleep, Victoria and Daniel sat on the back porch. The September night was cooling down, summer finally releasing its grip. You really would have resigned, Daniel said, if they'd pushed. Without hesitation. That's insane. Is it? I can always find another job. I can't find another you. He pulled her close. I still think you're too good for me. And I still think you're an idiot for believing that. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out over Lake Forest. I enrolled in classes, Daniel said eventually, at Northwestern, engineering program, part-time. That's wonderful. Figured if I'm going to be part of your life, I should probably finish my degree, make something of myself. You already are something, but I'm glad you're doing it for you. I'm terrified I'll fail. You won't. But if you do, we'll figure it out, together. Together, Daniel repeated, like he was testing the word. I'm still getting used to that. Me too. They stayed out there until the cold drove them inside. Victoria locked up the house while Daniel checked on the kids. They met in the hallway and for a moment just looked at each other. Stay tonight, Victoria said. Really stay. Not on the couch or in the guest room. With me. You sure? I'm sure. And for the first time, Daniel did. They lay in bed talking until late, about everything and nothing, until finally falling asleep tangled together. Victoria woke up first, watching Daniel sleep. His face was peaceful, younger without the worry that usually creased his forehead. She thought about everything that had happened, from that February afternoon in the alley to this September morning. All the fear and joy and complication. It wasn't perfect. Their relationship would face more challenges, more judgment, more obstacles. But lying there in the early morning light, with Daniel beside her and both their children safe down the hall, Victoria thought maybe imperfect was enough. Maybe imperfect was everything. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Victoria released her statement, short, direct, unapologetic, and the media had a field day anyway. But gradually, as they refused to engage with the noise, the fervor died down. People found new scandals to obsess over. Life continued. Daniel moved in officially in October. Not with fanfare or announcement, just the quiet accumulation of his and Emma's things throughout the house. Her toothbrush next to his in the bathroom. His engineering textbook stacked on the coffee table. Emma's artwork covering the refrigerator door that had been blank for too long. The house stopped being a museum and became a home, but not everyone was ready to accept it. Victoria's mother showed up unannounced on a Saturday morning in late October, her face pinched with disapproval. We need to talk, Patricia said, pushing past Victoria into the foyer. Hello, Mother. Please, come in. Victoria's sarcasm was lost on her. They ended up in the living room. Patricia perched on the edge of a chair like she might catch something from sitting normally. I've tried to be patient, Patricia began. I've tried to understand this situation. But Victoria, you're making yourself a laughingstock. Am I? Living with this man, playing house, it's unseemly. He has a name. And we're not playing house, we're raising our children together. Your child, his child, not our children. You barely know this man. Victoria felt the anger rising, but kept her voice level. I know him better than I knew most of the men you tried to set me up with after Michael died. Patricia's face flushed. Those men were appropriate, successful, from good families. Those men were boring and entitled and treated me like a trophy. Daniel treats me like a person. He treats you like a meal ticket. Get out. Patricia blinked. Excuse me? I said get out of my house now. Victoria, I'm your mother. Whoa. And I'm a 30-year-old woman who doesn't need your approval anymore. I tried to be patient. I tried to help you understand. But you don't want to understand. You just want me to live the life you think I should have. Victoria stood, walked to the door, opened it. So leave. And don't come back until you can be respectful to Daniel. You're choosing him over your own mother? I'm choosing happiness over judgment. There's a difference. Patricia gathered her purse with sharp, angry movements. You'll regret this. When he leaves you for someone younger, someone with less baggage, you'll regret it. Maybe. But it'll be my regret, my life, my choice. Her mother left without another word. Victoria closed the door and leaned against it, shaking. Daniel appeared from the kitchen, where he'd obviously been listening. You okay? No, yes, I don't know. She turned to him. Did I just destroy my relationship with my mother? You set a boundary. There's a difference. She might never speak to me again. Then that's her choice. You gave her the option to stay. She chose not to take it. Victoria pressed her face into his shoulder. Why does doing the right thing feel so terrible? Because the right thing is usually hard. If it was easy, everyone would do it. They stood there in the foyer, holding each other, until Liam called down, asking if they wanted to see the Lego castle he and Emma had built. Normal life reasserting itself. Small mercies. That evening, after the kids were in bed, Victoria found herself in the kitchen staring at her phone. Catherine had sent her a link to a blog post. She shouldn't read it. She knew she shouldn't, but she opened it anyway. The post was titled, When CEOs Lose Their Way, Victoria Hale's Midlife Crisis. It was worse than the first article. More personal, more vicious. It questioned her mental state, her fitness to lead, whether she was neglecting Liam for her boy toy. Victoria felt sick. Daniel came up behind her, gently took the phone. Stop reading that garbage. They're saying I'm a bad mother. They're saying whatever gets clicks. It doesn't make it true. But what if they're right? What if I am neglecting Liam? What if... Victoria. Daniel turned her to face him. Liam is happy. Happier than he's been in years. I see it every day. You're not neglecting him. You're giving him a family. A broken family, not what he should have. There's no such thing as a perfect family. Just people doing their best. And you're doing your best. Victoria wanted to believe him, but doubt was easier than faith. The next few weeks tested them in ways Victoria hadn't anticipated. Daniel's ex-wife resurfaced, or rather, her lawyer did, claiming Daniel's improved financial situation meant she deserved back child support. It was obviously a cash grab, but it tied them up in legal meetings and stress. Emma had nightmares about her mother coming back to take her away. Then the company had a crisis. A warehouse fire in Ohio, 3 workers injured, the media asking if Victoria had been distracted, if her personal life had affected her oversight. She spent 72 hours straight managing the crisis, making sure the workers were taken care of, overhauling safety protocols. When she finally came home, Daniel had kept everything running. Liam's homework done. Emma's school project completed. Meals cooked, house cleaned, both kids happy despite Victoria's absence. How did you do all this? She asked, exhausted beyond words. Same way you run a company, one thing at a time, and a lot of coffee. I couldn't do this without you. Yeah, you could. You did it for 2 years before I showed up, but you don't have to anymore. That's the point. Victoria started crying. Exhaustion and relief and gratitude all tangled together. Daniel held her while she fell apart, then put her to bed like a child. She slept for 14 hours straight. By November, things had settled into a new normal. The media attention faded. The legal issues with Emma's mother resolved when the judge threw out the case. The warehouse reopened with better safety measures. Daniel aced his midterms. Liam made the honor roll. Life wasn't perfect, but it was good. Thanksgiving arrived cold and clear. Victoria had initially planned something elaborate, catered dinner, formal table settings, the whole production. But Daniel had other ideas. "Let's cook," he said. "The four of us. Make it a family thing." So they did. Liam and Emma were put in charge of making pie, which turned into a flour fight that left the kitchen looking like a snow globe. Daniel handled the turkey. Victoria attempted mashed potatoes and only burned them a little. They laughed more than they cooked, made more mess than food, and it was perfect in its imperfection. As they sat down to eat, Victoria looked around the table, Daniel holding Emma's hand, Liam chattering about school, the mismatched plates because the formal china felt too stuffy, the slightly burned turkey that tasted better than anything catered ever had. This was what she'd been missing. Not perfection, not the Instagram-worthy life. Just this, messy, chaotic, real. "What are you thankful for, Mom?" Liam asked. Victoria's throat tightened. "You and this family and second chances?" "I'm thankful for dinosaurs," Liam declared. "I'm thankful we don't live in the old apartment anymore," Emma said quietly. Then looking at Victoria, "And that you let us stay." "I'm thankful for all of you," Daniel said, "and for the fact that I'm not eating ramen for Thanksgiving." They ate until they were stuffed, then collapsed on the couch to watch football. Victoria dozed off with her head on Daniel's shoulder, both kids curled up between them, and thought about how far they'd come from that February afternoon. How much had changed, how much had healed. December brought new challenges. The holiday season meant parties, events, all the social obligations Victoria couldn't avoid. Daniel still tensed up at formal gatherings, still got uncomfortable when people whispered, but he was getting better at ignoring it, better at holding his head high. At the company Christmas party, Jonathan Pemberton approached them, the same man who'd called Daniel a charity case at the gala. "Victoria, Daniel," he nodded at both. "I owe you an apology." Victoria was too surprised to respond. "I was out of line at the fundraiser," Pemberton continued. "Said things I shouldn't have. I've been watching how you've handled the media circus, the business crisis. You've been solid, both of you." "Thank you," Daniel said evenly. After Pemberton walked away, Victoria turned to Daniel. "Did that just happen?" "I think he actually apologized." "Hell must have frozen over." They laughed, and Victoria realized something had shifted. The whispers hadn't stopped, but they'd changed, from mockery to grudging respect. People were starting to see what she'd seen all along, that Daniel wasn't using her, that their relationship was real, that love didn't require equal bank accounts to be valid. Christmas Eve, Daniel did something Victoria didn't expect. He gathered everyone in the living room, Victoria, Liam, Emma, and pulled out a small box. "I know we've only been together since summer," he said. "I know this is fast, but I also know I've never been more sure of anything." Victoria's heart stopped. Daniel got down on one knee. "Victoria Hale, you saved my life. Not just by giving me a job, but by seeing me when I felt invisible, by believing in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. You and Liam, you're my family now, and I want to make it official." He opened the box. The ring was simple, nothing like the massive diamond Michael had given her, just a small sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds. "It's not much," Daniel said, "but it's what I could afford without your help. I wanted it to be mine, something I gave you, not something you paid for." Victoria was crying. "It's perfect." "Is that a yes?" "Yes, absolutely yes." Liam and Emma erupted in cheers. Daniel slipped the ring on her finger, pulled her into a kiss while the kids tackled them both. They ended up in a pile on the floor, laughing and crying and completely, messily happy. "Are you going to have a wedding?" Emma asked. "Eventually," Victoria said, "but nothing fancy, just family." "And can I be the flower girl?" "Absolutely." "Can I be the ring bearer?" Liam asked. "And can we have chocolate cake instead of regular cake?" "We can have whatever cake you want, baby." That night, after the kids were asleep, Victoria and Daniel sat by the Christmas tree. The lights cast soft shadows across the room. Everything was quiet, peaceful. "I never thought I'd have this," Daniel said softly. "A family, someone who loved me, a home. I never thought I'd want it again. After Michael, I thought that part of my life was over." "You miss him?" "Sometimes, but not the way I used to. Now it's just grateful I had that time with him. Sad it was cut short, but not destroyed by it anymore." "Think he'd approve? Of us?" Victoria considered it. I think he'd want me to be happy, and Liam to be happy. So yeah, I think he'd approve. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the tree lights blink. When should we do it? Daniel asked. The wedding? Spring? Maybe at the Botanic Garden? Sounds perfect. Planning a wedding while running a company and raising 2 kids turned out to be chaos. But it was happy chaos. Victoria let Emma and Liam pick colors. They chose purple and orange, which Catherine declared either hideous or genius, possibly both. Daniel's friend from Giuseppe's agreed to cater. Catherine bullied them into hiring a decent photographer. You're going to want pictures of this, she insisted. Trust me. Victoria's mother didn't respond to the wedding invitation. That hurt more than Victoria wanted to admit. But her father's sister, Aunt Helen, who'd always been the family rebel, called to say she'd be there. About time you did something interesting, Helen said. Your mother will come around, eventually, and if she doesn't, that's her loss. The wedding was set for May, exactly 1 year after they'd fallen in love at the gala. But life had other plans. In March, Daniel came home looking shell-shocked. I got offered a job, he said. Victoria's stomach dropped. Where? Here, Chicago. Engineering firm. They saw my grades, want me to intern while I finish school. It's good money. Real career potential. That's amazing. Why do you look terrified? Because I'd be your equal, financially. Not completely, but closer. And I don't know how to be that person. Victoria took his hands. You've always been my equal. The job just makes it official. What if I fail? Then you fail. And we figure out what's next, together. Daniel pulled her close. How are you so sure about everything? I'm not. I'm terrified most of the time. But I'm more scared of not trying. He took the job. May arrived with perfect weather. The Chicago Botanic Garden was in full bloom, tulips and peonies and roses creating a riot of color. Victoria had insisted on a small wedding, just close friends, immediate family. No media, no spectacle. Catherine was Victoria's maid of honor. Daniel's friend Marcus from Giuseppe's stood up as best man. Liam and Emma walked down the aisle together, arguing quietly about who was supposed to go first, making everyone laugh. And then Victoria walked down the aisle. No father to give her away because hers had refused to come, but Aunt Helen on one arm and Liam on the other. Daniel stood at the end, wearing a suit he'd bought himself, crying unabashedly. The ceremony was simple. They'd written their own vows. Daniel went first, his voice shaking. Victoria, you saw me when I was invisible. You loved me when I felt unlovable. You gave me a family when I thought I'd lost my chance at having one. I promised to see you, to love you, to be your partner in everything. Not because you need me to, but because I want to. Because choosing you every single day is the easiest decision I've ever made. Victoria was already crying. She took a breath, tried to steady her voice. Daniel, you saved my son, but more than that, you saved me. You reminded me that strength isn't about doing everything alone, that asking for help isn't weakness, that love, real love, isn't about perfection or status or any of the things I thought mattered. It's about showing up, being present, choosing each other even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And I choose you, today and every day after. The officiant pronounced them married. They kissed while Liam whooped and Emma giggled and Catherine sobbed openly. The reception was held under a tent by the Japanese garden. Dinner was Italian food from Giuseppe's, the same restaurant where Daniel had worked, where this story had really begun. They'd hired a local band that played too loud and slightly off-key. Emma and Liam danced until they could barely stand. As the sun set, Victoria and Daniel snuck away to a quiet bench overlooking the water. The party continued behind them, but here it was just the two of them. We did it, Daniel said. We really did. Think we'll be okay. Long term? Victoria leaned her head on his shoulder. I think we'll fight and struggle and probably mess up a lot, but yeah, I think we'll be okay. That's not very romantic. It's realistic. Romance is easy. Showing up every day, doing the work, choosing each other when it's hard. That's love. Daniel kissed her temple. When did you get so wise? I learned from a guy who gave his lunch to a scared kid in an alley. They sat there as the light faded, watching the water, listening to the music and laughter from the reception. Two broken people who'd found each other.
who'd built something real from the wreckage of their separate lives.
It wasn't a fairy tale. There was no magical ending where all their problems disappeared. Daniel still struggled sometimes with feeling out of place in Victoria's world. Victoria still worked too much. Emma still had nightmares. Liam still missed his father, but they had each other. They had their messy, imperfect family. And that was enough. 3 months after the wedding, Victoria launched a new initiative through her company. A program for struggling single parents, job training, childcare assistance, mentorship. She put Daniel in charge of developing it. "This is what you've been preparing for," she told him. "Use your experience. Help people the way I helped you." The program started small, 20 families the first year, but it grew. By the second year, they'd helped 200 families, created jobs, provided stability, gave people the same chance Daniel had gotten. One afternoon, Victoria came to observe an orientation session. She watched Daniel speak to a room full of tired, desperate parents. Watched him tell his story, the 3 jobs, the studio apartment, the fear of failing his daughter. Watched their faces change from skeptical to hopeful. Afterward, a woman approached him. Single mother, 2 kids, barely making rent. "You really think this can work?" she asked. "People like us don't usually get chances like this." Daniel smiled. "A year ago, I was washing dishes and wondering if I'd ever be more than exhausted. Now I'm married to an amazing woman, finishing my degree, and running this program. So yeah, I think it can work if you're willing to try." The woman signed up. So did 30 others that day. Victoria watched from the back of the room, her heart full. This was why they'd struggled through all the judgment, all the whispers, all the difficulty. Not just for themselves, for this. For the chance to show other people that circumstances didn't define you, that you could build something better. That night, they had dinner as a family. Liam complained about his math homework. Emma showed off a drawing she'd made in art class. Daniel helped with dishes while Victoria tried to explain algebra to a frustrated 7-year-old. Normal. Beautifully, perfectly normal. After the kids were in bed, Victoria found Daniel in his home office, working on program proposals. "You should sleep," she said. "Just finishing this up. We've got 3 more companies interested in partnering. You're going to change a lot of lives." "We're going to change a lot of lives. This was your idea." "But you made it real." Victoria wrapped her arms around him from behind. "I'm proud of you, in case I don't say it enough." Daniel turned in her arms. "You say it plenty, and I'm proud of you too. For building this company, for being an amazing mother, for taking a chance on some broke guy in an alley. Best decision I ever made." They stood there in the quiet house, holding each other, while Chicago hummed outside their windows. 2 years ago, Victoria had been drowning. Daniel had been surviving. Now they were living, really living. The road hadn't been smooth, it wouldn't be smooth going forward. There would be more challenges, more judgments, more moments where they'd have to choose each other over the easy path. But they would choose each other, again and again. Because that's what love was. Not the soaring moments or grand gestures, but the daily decision to stay, to try, to believe that together was better than apart. Victoria thought about that February afternoon, about Liam chasing a pigeon into an alley, about Daniel giving up his lunch without hesitation, about how one small act of kindness had rippled outward, changing everything. She thought about all the people who'd told her she was making a mistake, who'd said Daniel was using her, that she was throwing her life away, how wrong they'd been. Because this messy, complicated, beautiful life they'd built, this was everything. The kids were happy. The family was whole. And Victoria finally understood what Michael had tried to tell her all those years ago. That success wasn't measured in dollars or status or what other people thought. It was measured in moments, in laughter around the dinner table, in small hands holding yours, in the quiet certainty that you were exactly where you belonged. She'd found that. They'd found that. Together. And in a world that often felt cold and transactional, where kindness was rare and genuine connection even rarer, they'd built something that mattered. Not despite their differences, but because of them. Not by following the rules, but by writing their own. They'd taken the worst moments of their lives, loss and poverty and desperation, and transformed them into something good, something lasting. That was the real story. Not a fairy tale about a billionaire and a poor man falling in love, but a story about 2 people who'd been broken in different ways, finding each other in the wreckage, about choosing love over fear, about believing that everyone deserves a second chance at happiness, about understanding that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places, that kindness creates kindness, that one moment of genuine humanity can change everything. Victoria had learned that the hard way. So had Daniel, but they'd learned it together. And now, through their program, through the way they lived their lives, they were teaching it to others, showing struggling parents that there was hope, showing their children that family wasn't defined by blood or circumstances, but by choice and love and showing up every single day. The journey from that alley to this moment hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Every difficult conversation, every moment of doubt, every time they'd had to choose each other against the world's expectations, worth it. Because at the end of the day, Victoria had everything she'd been missing when she stood in that corporate boardroom, drowning in success but starving for meaning. She had love. She had family. She had purpose beyond profits and quarterly reports. She had Daniel and Liam and Emma, and a life that felt real in a way nothing had felt real since Michael died. That was the gift Daniel had given her in that alley. Not just keeping Liam safe, though that would have been enough, but showing her what genuine kindness looked like. Reminding her that there were still good people in the world, people who helped without expecting anything in return. People like Daniel, people like the man she'd married, the man who still, even now, sometimes couldn't believe this was his life. But it was. This was their life, messy and imperfect and absolutely worth fighting for. And as Victoria climbed into bed that night, Daniel already asleep beside her, she sent a silent thank you to that pigeon that had changed everything. To the universe for putting them in each other's paths, to whatever force had taken two broken people and given them the chance to heal together. She'd spent so long trying to do everything alone, trying to be strong enough, capable enough, perfect enough, and it had nearly destroyed her. Daniel had taught her a different way, had shown her that strength wasn't about standing alone, it was about knowing when to ask for help, when to let someone else carry part of the weight. They carried each other now, and that made all the difference. Outside, Chicago settled into sleep. Inside, a family rested. Not perfect, not without scars, but whole in the ways that mattered. And tomorrow they'd wake up and do it again. Choose each other again, build their life again, one small moment at a time. Because that's what love was. Not the big dramatic moments, though those mattered too, but the quiet daily choice to stay, to try, to believe that together was better than apart. Victoria had made that choice. Daniel had made that choice, and every day they kept making it. That was enough, more than enough. It was everything.